It's a special edition of the McShay Show, Rivalry Weekend, and we're live, and the whole gang is here. You've got myself, you've got Dan, you got Conor, you got Tucker behind the scenes, you got Muench in his new green hat. He's getting ready to be draft Santa soon, and you've got the chat live with us, and it just doubled in size in a matter of 30 seconds, Muench. And
Let's go.
Matt Mateus is there holding it down. Cole Marie doesn't have anything better to do, and I love it. What's better to do on a Saturday with Ohio State, Michigan? You got Haas. Haas is in the house.
And always trade backs at the Iowa State game. He's still on the chat.
ATB's there?
Yeah, he's at the game, and he's still here on the chat.
All right, then I'm here, and you're here. And you know what, Muench? We got some Lane Kiffin stuff to get to. We got Ohio State's huge win. We got a Texas update of the number 3 team in the country. And we got 145 days until the NFL draft. And I can see it on your face, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Muench, you good?
I'm good, man.
Roll my favorite beat, Tuck. Man, I'm fired up. We got the Christmas tree this morning. I got a wreath so big that now I don't know where to fit it on the house because it doesn't fit.
Yep.
We get here by 11 o'clock. I get showered and dressed. I get all 4 kids running around going crazy. You'll probably hear them screaming. Apparently, there's some kind of live thing going on with some video game. I don't even know what I'm allowed to say or not say anymore. Fortnite. Some Fortnite live something. So I'm trying to grab them downstairs. I got 2 screens going in the living room. And when we're done with this, I'm going to go right back down for the 3:30 games, for the Iron Bowl. And you know what, Muench? Maybe, just maybe, during your 30th reunion tonight, I might be giving you a call. And you might have to sneak out to the bathroom, or you might have to sneak onto the Andover field. I don't know where you're going to do it. But if there's something we got to get to after the Iron Bowl and these 3:30 games, we're not going to miss it. And we'll be right back here for just a little bit. But we'll see. But what I want to do now, we got a lot to cover. You can feel the energy on the show because we are here and there's urgency. There's urgency with college football. There's urgency with the college football playoff looming. And there's urgency with some of this coaching stuff going on. And I want to start there. Because Ohio State, Michigan just finished, and we will get to that in moments. And we got a lot to talk about from Texas A&M last night. But this Lane Kiffin situation is fascinating. And I'm not a reporter. I do not do the multiple sources thing. I try to stay out of that as much as I can because I learned early on in my career, stay in your lane, right? That's the important thing. Stay in your lane. And we got a pretty damn good lane, and we love living in it, okay? But I've gotten to know Lane kind of well. And throughout the years, 25 years, I've gotten to know who Lane is, and I've seen the evolution of Lane Kiffin. And I feel like I'm uniquely qualified in that kind of a remodeling of life, which I have had and Lane has had. And very publicly, you go through certain things and you have downtimes, and then if there's the strength within, you're able to pick yourself up off the mat, kind of refocus, change your ways, still be the best version of yourself and move forward. And that's what we've seen with Lane Kiffin. But still lying within this Lane Kiffin character, a buddy of mine, is the circus that surrounds. And it's part of the beauty of him. He loves trolling people. He did it on the field yesterday. Whether the young man called him a hoe or didn't call him a hoe, I'm not here for all of that. But it's last night around 11:30, I get a text from somebody who has been a source, if you will, to try to keep us informed throughout on this show and throughout my career. And somehow they I'm just going to lay it out, right? Lane Kiffin, it's highly publicized that he had the meeting last week with Ole Miss. He wanted to coach this week, and a decision is to be made today on Saturday, November 29th. Is he staying at Ole Miss, or is he leaving for other pastures? Let's not say greener, because it's hard to say what's greener in college football these days. We know that LSU has a strong desire to make Lane Kiffin its next head coach. We know that Florida had a strong desire to make Lane Kiffin its next head coach. it has been widely reported, and I got that same information I got it 2 days ago. Florida's out.
Right.
It's not. Yeah, they like to get ahead of the news and say, we're no longer, in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes, because they knew that they were no longer, that Lane had made that decision.
You can't fire me, I quit. It's, you know what I mean? Like, that's, what are we doing here?
And I also find it interesting that if you kind of dig deep, and I'm sure everyone in SEC country knows this, right? But if you dig deep on it, that Layla Kiffin, his wife, who they divorced and are now back together, and it's been kind of the whole renaissance of Lane Kiffin, right? Getting back with his family, and family is first. And today, first, Marty Smith is reporting that we're doing hot yoga with the family. And that's what we do every Saturday morning. But Layla was born in Gainesville. And Layla went to the University of Florida. And Layla's dad was a big time. I'm going to look
Booster?
it up right now. No.
Oh.
Was a big time quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Someone told me John Reeves. John Reeves was a Florida quarterback. Yeah. And John Reeves went on, I think, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that's how they met. I think Layla worked at the Buccaneers, like PR or something like that. So anyway, none of this is very important outside of there were ties there.
Right.
And so I don't know if that played for or against Florida. Maybe Layla, like, I'd rather not go back to where I grew up and all, and my dad, shadow of my dad and all that stuff. But certainly they were in the mix for a while. So then it became down to two. Are we staying at Ole Miss or are we going to LSU? And we know about the financial package that's been offered, and basically write your own check, all the resources, everything that goes behind LSU. I got to thinking yesterday before I got this text message from someone that I trust that wouldn't share information unless he believes strongly in it, that in my life circumstance, I'm not going anywhere without you. I'm not going anywhere without Marissa. We're not doing anything unless it's with the right people, with Dan and with Conor and with Tucker. And like, but if, something came along to grow this opportunity, then you got to kind of go back with your people and see what's important and what we want to do. Right. And if the money matches the money, and it sounds like Ole Miss is willing to match the money. So it's not a money thing. And I've truly believed that this has never been about the money for Lane. I'm not speaking about the past. I'm talking about this. This situation has never been about the money. The money's great. And it sounds like it would be matched at Ole Miss, what is being offered at LSU, or something very, very close. But when you've transitioned when you've had this renaissance and you've worked so hard to cut out the negative in your life, and you feel like you are now in the best place that you have been as a human being, as a husband, as a father, as a coach, as a person, there's an element of, do I want to step outside of this? Because, man, it's never felt better than this, right?
Yeah.
If I go down that path, like, am I going to be able to maintain what has made me the happiest I've ever been in my entire life? So Marissa and I had conversations about that yesterday, because it's a fascinating parallel,
She coming on? We should have her on.
No, she would never come on.
There'll be a day. There'll be a day.
Yeah, we'll sneak her in accidentally. All right. So
Let me ask you something though.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're Lane Kiffin, and I hear what you're saying, and I agree with everything you're saying, but he's also a guy that believes in, change and pushing yourself and evolving.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to weigh in a little bit here too. Like, are you getting too comfortable? Are you growing now? Or are you just gotten to a point in your life where you're just satisfied with staying in one lane and doing this thing? Or do you want to push yourself and evolve and find a new challenge? And LSU is a different challenge than Ole Miss is. It's one of the ways that these things are unique. I do think there's an argument to make. Is LSU really greener pastures than Ole Miss in the new college football landscape? There's an argument there, but there's no argument that winning at LSU is different than winning at Ole Miss. You know what I mean?
Well, and the resources and the backing, even like Ole Miss is willing to do everything.
It's a different thing.
It has a foundation that's different than the foundation at Ole Miss, even though Ole Miss, to its credit, has literally done everything possible, financially, structure-wise, freedom, everything Ole Miss should be, recognized for what it has done to provide Lane everything he needs to get to this,
Right.
11-win season, potentially in the SEC championship game, and absolutely in the college football playoff. Okay. And that's where they are. And LSU ain't. But you take Lane in this program and the recruiting and the energy and the new Lane and the dialed in with the no distractions and the family and everything that he has, and you put it into that machine, and that's what LSU is banking on.
Yeah.
And that's the part. And I think you asked a great question, because what is equal for us with my kids at their age versus Lane with his kids off to college and all that, it might be different, right? So that's what, and here's the part for Lane. And I think along I have the same thought process too. Okay, you take me now where I am with you and with the support, and and we keep growing this, right? And so Lane is like, hey, where I am now, and with the recruiting and with all the media attention and everything that it gets, and all the players that want to come play for me, and I bring that to LSU with that foundation. Could I do what Nick did?
Right. There's that tie too.
You watch the hand gestures, you watch some of the reactions, some of the phrases, and they butted heads, and I know stories that I can't even tell.
I can only imagine. Well, you know what? Anyone can imagine knowing those two personalities.
I know stories that I can't even tell the way that those two. However, there was a mutual respect. And there continues to be a great, it's one of those things like a family member or a great friend. Like, I'm going to fuck with you all day long. I'm going to needle you. I'm going to put out your weaknesses. I'm going to test you. I'm going to do all that stuff. Somebody else tries to say something about you though.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
So the question becomes, now that I am where I am, can I be the next Nick? And I think that's what's eating at all of this. So I've been burying this lead the whole time. I am not Pete Thamel. I'm not trying to ever be. I'm not saying I have this like sourced out I'm just saying I got some information, and I was told last night around 11:30 at night, before I was getting ready to get some sleep, to get up and go Christmas tree shopping and get ready for the show and an awesome slate of games. All of a sudden this thing's dropped in my lap. And I'm not confirming it. I'm not even reaching out to people and trying to. I don't care. I'm just saying I was told last night, based off of some text threads and this, that, and people who are this, and that Lane has made his decision. He's going to LSU. And there's a respectful amount of time that's being allowed. He's going to spend time with the family in the morning. And I don't know any of the other details, but along the lines of what was presented to me that made a lot of sense was, we just won this massive game. We are in the college football playoff. Depending on what happens today in these games, maybe an opportunity to play in the SEC championship game. However, there is a deadline that's looming, and it's essentially, my understanding, 11:59 tonight, Eastern time. And so is it after the Iron Bowl when they know whether they're in or they're out? Because if Auburn
Alabama loses,
Alabama, Ole Miss is
right?
Ole Miss is playing in the SEC championship game. And am I trying to distract all of that? And so I've also been told that he's gone in the facilities, and they're preparing for Georgia, right? Yeah, for Georgia in the SEC championship game. Is that right?
I think that's right. I will check right now.
So again, I'm not sitting here, I'm not reporting it and like it's done, but I wouldn't have got this information from the person I got it from, and that person wouldn't have got it from the people who were in contact. Okay. You follow me?
Yep.
Unless Lane was purposely telling friends of his that are very close misinformation, or if Lane overnight, night sleep, thought on it, hot yoga, all that actually changed his mind. And maybe something was presented to him last minute by Ole Miss. But as of last night, before I fell asleep, the information was Lane's going to LSU. It's just a matter of when this is going to all be announced. And is Ole Miss going to allow him and is Ole Miss going to allow him to still coach? And I'm just told right now by Dan Comer, our unbelievable editor, producer extraordinaire who does everything for this show, that there is a meeting today. Let me pull it up. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss AD Keith Carter are set to meet at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So 10 minutes from now, Steve. So this is all imminent. And that's why I wanted to start this show with this, because it's going to happen fast. Go ahead.
Do you have an instant reaction, or are you going to give this a second to breathe? You can have an instant reaction and still circle back. No, that it looks like he's going to LSU, or that it feels like he's going to LSU. Do you want to wait? You want to give it a second to breathe?
No, I guess it isn't an instant reaction. It was hours spent talking about life parallels, ironically, last night. Yeah. Prior to getting this text and then having to circle back and have a conversation. So I kind of had come to grips with who he was, and then it was almost, I don't want to say full confirmation because it wasn't like multiple sourced and Thamble or Bruce or like, those guys giving it to me and or going nationally and saying it. I understand it. I don't know that the grass is always greener. I do think what they have at Ole Miss is special.
I do too, yeah.
But unlike Harbaugh at Michigan or Urban from the state of Ohio at Ohio State, or Nick didn't have that tie, but once Nick became Nick at Alabama, it wasn't going to be at another place. It didn't, you know what I mean? Like I never felt like Ole Miss had to be the end of the road in terms of where he finished his career. And he's young. I don't think he's much older than me. How old is Lane Kiffin? Look that up. I guess 52, 53, maybe 55 at the oldest. I don't even think he's that.
50.
50. Yeah. I said a couple years older than me.
Yeah.
So they say your best earning years in life, no matter what the profession, are 55 to 60, 63, that 8-year span. So his best years are still coming up. My reaction to it is I understand.
Me too.
As long as your family wants this, and we saw his daughter, the most recent social media post, handing out gifts to underprivileged kids in Baton Rouge with Wit Weeks. Clearly, this is a family thing, and Knox is doing great in high school. But I don't know if he's a junior or senior or what he is, but I'm sure that'll all get worked out. And his wife clearly is on board, and Layla wouldn't have said no to Florida before they made this final decision had that not been a family thing. And so now, I honestly, I get it. I get it because you're in a place where you're like, you know what? I can go and make a run at being one of the best of all time. And they'll have support there that maybe they wouldn't have in terms of the foundation at Ole Miss. So I understand all of that. The hard part is, and everyone's going to just murder Lane Kiffin for this.
100%.
Murder him. But you were given an ultimatum by the school that you're at presently. And LSU has to have an answer at some point.
Yeah.
So it's just a brutal position to be in. And to his credit, he danced around all this stuff this past week. He kept his team focused, which is hard to do given all this stuff. Mm-hmm. He said all the right things, empowered his players. Players aren't the same as they used to be, were the quotes. Players care about their NIL, and that's a good thing. And, so he found his ways to motivate his team and keep their focus on that game. And you saw in the second half when they ran away from Mississippi State after the first half where they were dragged through the mud, fights and ADs on the sideline and all sorts of stuff that Mississippi State was trying to do to create an environment.
Muddy it up, yeah.
To drag them into that mud, right?
Yeah.
So My initial reaction is I understand. I mean, it doesn't mean what's good for Lane would be good for me and you and I'm not taking this thing back to ESPN or some network or something like that. We're doing this here and we're going to grow it so big that it doesn't matter where we are. So if I'm making that personal parallel, and all of a sudden we got Netflix as an opportunity, and like this is just going to keep growing, man. And I'm certain of it. I'm not even hopeful or confident. I'm certain of it. So, but it's a different world in college football. And I think that LSU gives them maybe a slightly or a better chance to go become one of the greats, to be thought of as an Urban Meyer, a Nick Saban, one of those guys. So that's where I am. But you have to now start asking the question, this meeting at 4:00, which is in 5 minutes from right now. Do you know how important that meeting is between Lane and Mr. Carter? Oh, yeah. The athletic director at Ole Miss?
And the future of the SEC landscape? I mean,
I don't think that meeting is necessarily about please stay or are you staying? I think that meeting is probably more about I'm leaving. Can I coach this? And will LSU allow him to still I don't know.
And the reporting was that Carter wasn't going to let him coach. That they
and I'll be honest with you. And I heard Herbie today, and I'm with you, Kirk. I would love to see it for the players, and I'm with Nick on this too. Like, the players have to come first. They truly do.
I agree with you.
For everyone but the AD and the person who's representing Ole Miss. That's the problem. Because if my sole job in this world is to do what's best for Ole Miss, it's about a vision that's greater than the next 7 weeks or whatever it is. And I'm not letting this guy leave to go in conference, in division, to a rival that's literally down the highway and coach my program in the college football playoff. I don't think. Are you?
You know me. I'm a sentimental, in my bubble, do what's right for the player type thing, and I hope that that's what prevails. But I hear you. Like, this is about the future of the Ole Miss program, and that's what you got to look at when you're making a decision. It's lousy. I mean, it sucks that you have a team as good as Ole Miss is this year, and it's going to go this way at the end. And we'll see. Maybe they make some kind of run. Maybe they rally around, the team rallies around itself, circles the wagons, and somehow makes a run here. But my gut tells me that Ole Miss is not going to be coached by Lane Kiffin in the playoffs if he leaves for LSU. That's my gut. I think it even gets more interesting than that is how much of his staff does he take with him, and who's allowed to stay, and who's going to go, and all of that. And where does the committee look at them in terms of seeding? If Alabama wins tonight, where is Ole Miss going to be hurt? I can't imagine they're going to keep him out if Lane Kiffin leaves. I mean, that would be wild. I mean, that would I don't think they can do that. But if he leaves, do they drop in the seeding? Or they now go from whatever they were going to be to a lower seed? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. It'd be interesting how they handle that if Tulane gets in too, based on the reporting about Summerall going to Florida. I mean, there's the way these coaching changes are happening with these big time programs, or programs that are winning at least, is something to keep an eye on. This is unique, but I'm not sure it's going to be unique going forward.
I see you, John D. Dollar. Yes, I understand that there's not divisions now. I'm just saying that this has been for forever in the SEC has been.
Yeah, this is right.
They've been playing every year, and I understand where we are in college football today. I'm saying there was a difference going from Ole Miss to Kentucky or Florida or Georgia to going to one of the traditional, West. So that was my only point. But I also see everybody else in the chat are like, okay, great. Thanks for the update. Thanks for the intel, but let's go, move on. And I'm not, I want to make this point. Yeah. Florida is out. And I'm glad you mentioned John Summerall. I'm going to make a couple quick notes and we can move on. We don't even have to discuss. Summerall is the likely choice there. And yes, they are playing tonight against Charlotte and they are the top ranked G5, and Muench just covered how critical all of that is for potentially that Tulane program. Right.
Yep.
Alex Golish is also in the mix. What's interesting is there is a huge domino effect and trickle down effect, or whatever you want to call it. And what's also fascinating is Jimmy Sexton, I believe he's still at CAA, the super agent of college football coaches, and what his role behind all of these things in the SEC.
The puppeteer.
At one point, I think he had 14 to the 16 coaches he was representing in the SEC. That was in 2024. I'm not sure if that's the exact same number, but it's the vast majority. He also had James Franklin. Okay. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff here. But when you look at, is it LSU or Ole Miss that now is open after Lane Kiffin decides, and they have the meeting that's starting literally right now at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But Alex Golish is a name you've heard already at Arkansas. And if it's not, for some reason, Sumrall at Florida, Alex Golish from South Florida is in the mix at Florida. Also in the mix potentially at like an Ole Miss. There's Auburn. There's Arkansas, and Golish has been strongly tied there. A lot of moving parts. And then there's also Penn State out there, as I mentioned, where a Jimmy Sexton client, James Franklin, was recently fired and then recently hired by Virginia Tech. Why do I bring Sexton into all this? I hear Penn State I've talked about Pat Kraft and the athletic director at Penn State, and there's mixed opinions on how that's going, right? I don't know him personally. I'm not here. I'm saying, I think, unfortunately, if you're a Penn State fan, there's been some playing that's been going on with Penn State a little bit. I'm told, and again, I'm not going to go into all these sources and this and that because I'm not reporting anything, but there's some information out there that Bob Chesney, who I told you is going to be a fast rising coach in this business, and all of a sudden his name's everywhere, and he's doing a great job at JMU, right? He was at Holy Cross, and when he was at Holy Cross, I was told by multiple people that I trusted in this profession, Chesney's a name. He's going to go right, and all of a sudden it's Holy Cross, JMU, and now holy shit. Like big time programs are like, and Penn State apparently was interested. In fact, may or may not have been on a plane to go see when Jimmy Sexton calls and says, I think Chesney's going to UCLA. Don't need to make that trip. Again, just stuff I'm hearing. Bottom line is Chesney now, it sounds like, is going to be announced after JMU plays today or at some point. If JMU's eliminated from the college football playoff, I think that's when it will be announced that he's going to UCLA. All right, so that's a nugget for you. Also represented by Sexton, Eli Drinkwitz, who just signed an extension at Missouri, was in the mix at Penn State. Yeah, and his name was up for some other places. Also represented by Sexton, Clark Lee. See, he just signed a massive extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think he was going anywhere anyways, but yeah, it's interesting.
But Penn State had interest.
Yeah.
And Penn State had interest in Drinkwitz. And Penn State had interest. This is what I've been told. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying Bob Chesney. Okay. Sounds like maybe Penn State's now down to Brent Key as a possibility. Not represented by Sexton. In fact, I don't know exactly. I couldn't find. I don't know.
That'd be a great hire for them. I love that hire for them.
And there was some kind of big name coach that was being batted around. I was told last night, don't count out Lincoln Riley as a major target of Pat Kraft's to Penn State.
That's interesting.
And he's not represented by Sexton. You following the tea leaves here?
Dan says Brent Key's never leaving his Georgia Tech team.
Cut him open and see what colors he bleeds. I'm just saying, this is the information I'm getting. Trace Armstrong represents. So maybe Penn State's out of the Jimmy Sexton game.
Let me ask you this, because this is the problem, and I'm sure I'm not as savvy in this area as you are, so I'm guessing there's an easy answer to this. Is that doing a disservice to his clients, though? Like, shouldn't he be listening to what Penn State has to say, you know, if like for Chesney and what that's going to look like in terms of a financial package, or is it just
listen? And
you know what I mean? You know
everyone in the chat is right. And Jeremy Godden just said rivalry week. He was actually defending us, saying it was boring. I hear you. All I'm saying is these are nuggets that are coming in fast and furious. Keep an eye on them. And who knows? We may find out in 15 minutes that Lane Kiffin's going back to Ole Miss and be like, McShay didn't know anything. All right. Ohio State, Penn State. Man.
Ohio State,
Michigan.
Oh, come
sorry.
on. Yeah,
I'm getting Penn State off my mind. Ohio State, Michigan. The game. I grew up on this game. I told you. Marshall Brown, my grandfather. I was a Michigan fan from birth. I went to many a Ohio State, Michigan game, many a Michigan game, and grew up with Bo Schembechler as a family friend. Very fortunate. So I have a great deal of respect and like family memories, and every Saturday after Thanksgiving was spent on this game with my grandfather, with my family, and driving around and the M's crossed out everywhere and the flags hanging everywhere. So I love this game, and what's not to love? But Michigan has dominated it in recent years, but Ohio State has clearly been the better program in recent years. I thought it was, let's just start from the beginning. I thought it was critical that Michigan got out to an early lead in this game. Find a way to get out to an early lead, set some kind of a tone, get Ohio State nervous to like, oh man, is this happening again?
Right.
And the snow's about to come and this game could get mucky, and we get these Ferraris on the outside and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and we get this young quarterback
banged up, by the way, too. They haven't been healthy.
Yes. So a banged up pair on the outside, snow's on the horizon. Let's get a lead and possess the ball, and let's make this as ugly as we want it to be. If you hear people screaming in the background, despite me begging them not to, it's some Fortnite Live, and it should be, although it might be Clemson. I don't know if Clemson's game's over already. And they did, and Michigan did. And they got the run game going early. The first team all season, since Texas, to rush for over 100 yards. And they get it rocking early on. Jordan Marshall, 4 for 61 rushing in the first 5 minutes of the game. Then Michigan gets the pick.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan gets a little bit more yardage, but winds up with another field goal. So it's 6-0, but they've been deep in the zone of Ohio State twice, and they only get 6 points. And you have to wonder, is that going to wind up coming back to bite them, right? And then I thought Ohio State's response, right? After 6-0, after the interception, offensively to drive down the field, Bo Jackson, 36-yard run by Bo. And then they get down inside the 3-mensch.
Mm-hmm.
1 play stuffed, 2 play stuffed, 3 plays stuffed. Then it's now going to be 2 plays stuffed. Then it's going to be 3rd and goal. And Jayshon Barham, right?
Yep.
4 sacks on the season. He's been the second best pass rusher for Michigan.
Talented
dude, loses his mind. Freaks out on players, then turns around and headbutts the ref. Lucky to not be kicked out of the game.
Should have been kicked out of the game.
Agreed.
Lucky.
The letter of the law. Yep.
Yeah. See you later, man.
So, but that gives Ohio State a fresh set of downs. First down, stuffed. Second down, stuffed. Third down, stuffed. Go for it on 4th down. After the knee was down by Sayin on the push, they called it a touchdown, reviewed it. Wasn't a touchdown. Here, we're going again. Quarterback sneak, probably a touchdown. Flag. 5 yards. Now we got to kick a field goal, 6-3. So far, things are going really well for Michigan. They stopped him 6 times inside the 3-yard line. But then it started to happen. Jordan Marshall, the running back, injures his shoulder, doesn't come back in. Michigan still has some run game going, but the receivers and Sayin start to take off. And I think we learn more about Sayin in this game than in any other game that we've seen all season long. And despite his number, I don't even have the final numbers here. We can pull them up. I thought we learned an awful lot about him. And I also think, and I'll tell you now who my spotlight player of the day is. It's Bo Jackson.
Yeah. Yes. You didn't tell me that. I love it.
Bo
I thought he was the
Jackson,
best player in that game.
he was the best player in the game. And also, you see the 22 carries, 117 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards against this run defense, had 4 catches for almost another 50, averaged over 12 yards per catch. I thought there were 2 reasons why he was not only like statistically was awesome in this game. There were 2 things about his performance today that were incredibly important in my eyes. And I want to get your take on this. The first is the Michigan component of it. Because Sayin and Tate and Smith took over the game for a couple quarters, second quarter, third quarter. You had the long touchdown catch by Jeremiah Smith. You had the long touchdown catch by Carnell Tate. 50 yards for Tate. I don't know what it was for Jeremiah Smith, but it was that inside-out route that was awesome, right? It
was unbelievable.
So
he fumbled out of the back of the end zone, but we won't talk about that.
Right. There were a couple errors by the officiating crew today.
It was bad. I think Ohio State still wins this game handily, by the way. So don't get all caught up in that, Michigan fans. But I thought it was a bad call.
Yeah.
Unbelievable route, though. That doesn't take away from the fact that route was sick. It was unbelievable.
But the reason why Bo Jackson was the most important player was that you saw that they got a lead and now they're up 2 scores. And you've asked the question, I've asked the question, and I know you've agreed. If there's one flaw in Ohio State, I don't know that they have the run game this year, right? Mm-hmm. Do they have that back? Do they have Eddie George? Do they have Judkins? Do they have Henderson? Do they have, what's his name? The Chargers and I'm going to blank right now.
Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins. Do they have that guy in-house, right?
Yep.
We know this talent. We know he's next, Bo Jackson. We know he's the future. But if we're going to make a run at this year, do we have that back when things get ugly and we need to, whether it's wear a team down, whether it's kill the clock late in the game? And to watch him in the fourth quarter take over this football game was hugely important because this has always been a rivalry. And in recent years about Michigan's just more physical. You know?
Yeah.
Joe Moore award winner, defensive tackles last year. They just win in the trenches. They got all the athletes up in Columbus or down in Columbus, but we're the tougher, more physical team, right? And it goes back to Schembechler breaking yardsticks on the back of calves of offensive linemen, okay? That's been their identity forever. But late in this game, Ohio State was the more physical team, and Bo Jackson allowed them with his contact balance, his cutting ability, he obviously has great speed, but it's more than just that. So that's the first part. First part was the Michigan element of it. Can we shove it down their fucking throats in the fourth quarter with a lead? And the answer was yes. Then the second part of it is, all right, now we got to go to the college football playoff after this Big Ten championship game. And we got it back. And we should have seen the signs, but we didn't know to trust it. All right. Because early in the year, it was 9 for 108 against Grambling. It was 9 for 109 against Ohio. It was 17, but for only 80 against Washington. 13 for only 63 against against Minnesota. 10 for 47. 10 for 26 against Illinois and Wisconsin, respectively. But then something started to click against Penn State. 13 for 105. Purdue, 1475. UCLA, 15-112. Rutgers, 19-110. And you kind of, but you're still wondering, can he do it against Michigan? And to watch his talent and to watch his confidence, I think he completes this team. We know the defense is exceptional, and they proved it again today. 3 field goals allowed. We know the quarterback has developed. And today was obviously, we wanted to see what we saw today from Julian saying he was outside of that first interception and kind of the first couple drives. He was flat out brilliant under these circumstances. But do they have the run game? And now I see it with Bo Jackson.
A couple things that I think are interesting. One is that you were talking about Bo Jackson, I think either after or before the Washington game of you did see this coming. You're not giving yourself enough credit. You did talk about Bo Jackson, where they thought they were going to be. 2, I think it's interesting you talk about the physicality and don't mention the offensive line once in that statement. That's typical for you, so I'll go ahead and do it now. I wondered not only did they have the back, but did they have the offensive line? I made the same mistake last year. This offensive line is doing exactly what it did last year, which is playing its best football late in the season and really come together. And that is a bad sign for the rest of the playoff field. The other thing I want to say here is, how about Brian Hartline, man? You talk about the run game, and you talk about being able to shove it down Michigan's throat. It seemed like, and I have a ton of respect for Chip Kelly, and I'm not going to kick a guy when he's down. Obviously, that did not go well for him in Las Vegas. But when you looked at this game last year, that seemed like their only goal in that game was to say, we can shove it down Michigan's throat, and we're going to run into a brick wall over and over and over and over again. They didn't do that in this game. They did a great job with their balance and then wore out that Michigan front and then ran the ball late. It was a great game for Hartline. I think Hartline's been awesome this year. Even the Brendan Ennis touchdown catch, that play design at the end of the first half. I mean, holy shit, that was awesome. That was awesome. Needed to play in there. And the last thing I want to say is Ryan Day has gotten a lot of heat for this 4-game losing streak, and I understand it on some level, but he like last year was bad. He also lost to some really good Michigan teams, including a national champion Michigan team. So I think they got kind of lost in the mix and started just turning into a 4-game losing streak because last year was a bad loss. And it was, again, a bad loss. But I think Joel Klatt was dead on about what he said. Ohio State decided that they were going to be themselves coming into this game, and that's exactly what they did. They didn't try to change their identity like I had hinted at earlier and try to be this run-heavy team that was going to out-physical the team from the North. That's not what their goal was. Their goal was to win this game. And they were just themselves. They asserted themselves. They asserted the fact that they were the deeper, more talented team and just took care of business. And even though it's not like any other game, they handled it like any other game. And I think that was huge for them, considering all the mental hurdles they must have had going into it.
Yeah. I thought it was an awesome performance because it showed literally the only two complaints are with Ohio State all year long is, do they have the run game to balance it out when they need it? And we've gotten the answers recently, and it was confirmed today. And then also, how are they in adversity? Because we just don't know. And
can they win on the road against a good team? How good was that Texas team? Like, they answered a lot of questions for me today. That's a good Michigan team, by the way. Underwood's got a long way to go. You talked about it last week. You were dead on about it, and it showed up big time in the second half where he just was rushing everything, checking down, didn't look comfortable a lot in this game, didn't have his best game. They needed him to have his best game to compete. He'll be better, but it was not a great day for him.
And it was interesting, too, having Urban Meyer on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And listening to him as one of the founding fathers of the spread, kind of the option stuff and all this, I'm not saying he was the first, but he kind of took it to another level and throughout his career and kind of evolving and bringing other offensive coordinators to mesh with his principles and all that. There's no denying that Urban Meyer has a great offensive mind. Okay. And to hear him talk about what he would try to do against Ohio State, I felt like I kind of trapped him into giving me a game plan that might work for Michigan against Ohio State, which is not something that he wanted to do. But sometimes when your mind just ticks like that, and he was talking about indicators.
Oh, it was a great question. Yeah, you want to know what he would do.
But it was a way better answer. The answer to the question of when you've got a young quarterback and this defense is amazing and that defensively they're doing different things this year with Matt Patricia. What would be the approach? And he was like, as an offensive coach, it's about indicators. We're always looking for tips, and it's usually like the safeties and the rotations and what they do on certain downs and distances and find indicators. Go ahead.
Interestingly enough, on game day this morning, Saban was talking about the boundary safety when talking about reading Michigan's defense and what they do. And these guys, football. It's funny when you get to that level, and I can't even imagine what that level is with the Sabans and the Myers of the world. It's such a simple game for them. And they both talk about it. You have this great defensive coach and this great offensive coach. And what are you looking at? It's the boundary safety. And both of them hinted at or talked about that going into this game.
But Urban was saying, I'm having a hard time when watching Ohio State finding true indicators. Because
what was
go ahead.
It was interesting about that answer, though, is Urban was I think he was really, it was a great answer. But did you notice as the answer evolved, he started going, well, I'm going to run the ball at him. And when I run the ball at him, they're going to have to show their hand a little bit. And if they show their hand a little bit, now I got,
in the
he was
second
like,
half. Yeah,
but
that's why
it's a
that's
tough
why
one, but I
was a
could
simple-
crack it.
It was a simple question that trapped him a little bit, but it got him going down this road
Right.
where he couldn't stop. And now he's talking about like, all right, but if I get him in game and get him into the muck a little bit,
Right.
But it, like now they've given us tells. Then in the second half, then we're going to adjust. So it got him going and showing the thought process, which I thought was fascinating. But he said initially what he would do is come out and he would run the hell out of Bryce Underwood. He said, I had an Underwood, a big, strong, physical, athletic, mobile quarterback. His name was Tim Tebow. And in games like this, we ran the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And early on, they were running the hell out of the ball, and Underwood had a couple carries, all that. But I think after that conversation with Urban, if you told him that night, when we were done, if we were like, hey, Herb, I'm going to tell you something. Underwood finishes with 6 for 1. Based off of that answer you just gave, what do you think? And he'd be like, yeah, no chance. And there wasn't. It's just interesting that Michigan didn't try to run Underwood more. It was a long way to get to what my point was. When I look up at that stat line and I see 6 carries for 1 yard, Ohio State clearly was expecting that. And Ohio State clearly put a lot of work in with Matt Patricia and this very smart, talented, but also I said this in week 1. You got to have a bunch of smart dudes. And we know that Styles is. And we know that Caleb Downs is. Extraordinarily smart, football smart. But you got to have a bunch of other guys that are pretty good to damn smart to pick up that NFL scheme and to make it look that polished and that confusing for a young quarterback in week 1. When you got 8 new starters and a new defensive coordinator, it's not easy to do with the college football coaching time teaching time limitations. And to see them now evolve in week 14, but the 12th game of the regular season was pretty special to see. And they clearly were thinking the same way that Urban was. We got to run the quarterback. And Ohio State was like, we're not going to let you run the quarterback. In fact, we'll let your running backs get some yards. We're not letting you beat us on the ground. Beat us in the air. Your running backs, but we are going to squeeze the life out of your quarterback and his ability to run the ball. And it worked. And there was a flash or two of Underwood throwing that seam route to McCulley was awesome. The Donovan McCulley was an awesome throw.
Oh my God, yeah.
Even better catch. But and by the way, where was Andrew Marsh today? Was there an injury situation? He didn't have a catch. And he's there. He and McCulley are the 2 guys we talked about last week. So just an awesome job. Now let me ask you this question. Dan, get this ready. And I'm going back to you guys in the chat. Sorry, I've been on a rant today. I don't apologize. Been on a rant. And Matt Mateus wants Santa Mensch. And we're going to get him.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, this is the warm-up. This is like the first elf coming out on December 1st, Get this ready, Dan. Now, after watching that performance, and I'm not saying but Michigan was ranked 15. Michigan's a good team, and Michigan's been beating the hell out of Ohio State the last 4 years. After watching that Ohio State today, are you taking Ohio State or the field?
Oh, I'm taking Ohio State.
Hey, Tucker, let's find out FanDuel. Maybe we'll get back to it tonight if I bother mention his 30th reunion.
I'm hoping it happens, man.
Oh, I will. I can't help myself. And everyone on the chat, we just keep an eye out on social media. If things get twisty, we've got Vanderbilt and Tennessee are tied 7-7. LSU's not doing its part early on, just 10 offensive yards, but they're trailing 3-0. More importantly, Auburn, Alabama tonight. If things get chaotic tonight, we might have to come back, recap really quickly, and more importantly, kind of go through the TMS top 12. But Ohio State or the field. And Tucker, I was saying FanDuel. What are the FanDuel odds now to win the national championship? Compared to, I guess, I'm sure they've gone up or gone down, however you want to look at it. So let's see. I'm going to pull up my app, FD Sportsbook, by the way. If you love our show, then you got to be a FanDuel guy or girl. Cole Marie. Here we go. National championship odds plus 170. Okay. Indiana is number 2 at plus 490. Why? I love Signetti. I love that team. I think they're capable of making a little run.
Yeah.
I just couldn't put my money behind Indiana at plus 490. But then it's interesting. Georgia, 800, Notre Dame, 1,000, A&M, 1,000, Oregon, 1,200. Like, those are long odds compared to plus 170. They are a massive favorite. So FanDuel has spoken. And I kind of tend to agree. 76% on the early voting for Ohio State versus the field. Anything else in this game you want to get to, Mensch?
I think we're good here, man. I mean, again, I'm very impressed with top to bottom the organization of Ohio State and how they handled it to go on the road. And I thought Ryan Day did exactly what he needed to do to kind of exercise those demons.
I'm glad you mentioned Heartline too.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought look, and that was the whole discussion last year. They just kept trying to run the ball with those two talented backs against a talented Michigan offense, and they never really opened it up. And I thought that Heartline had a great balanced game plan for them today.
How about being a first-year starting quarterback on the road, game turns to snow, but that's not even the factor. Throwing an interception early on, Michigan, that crowd, the third largest stadium in college football, that crowd, that history, even though it's none of your history, but you sense it in the building, you sense it from the staff. You know that no player on that roster today, Steve, had beaten
I know,
Michigan.
Zero. I couldn't believe that.
Not one
Zero players would win. Yeah. Wow.
And to be like, yep, I got this, no problem. 19 for 26, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that one early pick that he bounced back from. And he did it. It was Tate had the one long catch, but he had 5 for 82. Jackson getting involved in the run game, as I mentioned, as the spotlight player of the day, 4 for 49. Jeremiah Smith had the one touchdown catch. 2 other catches, finished 3 for 40 with a touchdown. Kesmarik, the tight end. Claire, the tight end, they combined for 5 catches for 50 yards. Brandon Innes, 2 for 12 with a touchdown. So he distributed it. They don't have a ton of guys, but the guys they have are just better than yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Julian Sand looks like he's all of 12.
Yeah, your name said, not that this game matters. Your name 7608. I get the $4 going. And even though the show's, a lot of people are going to listen and watch the show after, and we appreciate everyone watching on YouTube. Would you please give it a like and a subscribe? Appreciate everyone on watching and listening. Follow. Everyone watching and listening on Spotify. And everyone who's listening on Apple and anywhere else you get your podcasts. And I recognize that most people are going to wind up absorbing this content after these games, but it is an absolute blizzard. It looks like in Minnesota right now.
I'm seeing that now. That looks awesome. Awesome.
I got the $4 going. A beautiful day in Norman, Oklahoma. You got Tennessee. You got the Tennessee teams going. Vandy at Tennessee and Knoxville. Looks like a nice day there. Probably a little chilly. You're out in Washington for Oregon, Washington. 3-0 game in that. And then you go down to the bottom left at my $4, and it's just a blizzard. I love games this weekend. All right. Let's get to that quickly. I just want to quickly mention, and we'll get to the TMS top 12, and we'll see if we have to revisit that. While I'm doing this, Mensch, is BYU UCF over? Give me a quick update on that.
They must be over. Let me find it.
Yeah, they probably finished. I think they started
41-21.
So they pulled away. They were starting to pull away
after UCF jumped them in the first quarter, 14-0.
Yeah, and it was 14-14, then it was 17-14 at the half. Get BYU out of there, and they'll do it. You saw Texas Tech with that massive win against West Virginia.
Handling business.
Was it 59-0 or something crazy?
49-0. Yeah,
49-0.
Yep.
I do want to mention we could be in a predicament depending on how the rest of these games fall. This Miami situation is worth noting because Miami came out and the efficiency of that offense, and most importantly, the efficiency of Carson Beck in that game against a Pitt team that is not good enough to compete with Notre Dame, but is good enough to has been good enough with a young quarterback since taking over the reins to kind of run through the ACC.
Who, Pitt?
Yes.
Yeah.
They lost to Notre Dame 37-15, but they beat Georgia Tech handily by 14 points, Steve. Georgia Tech just kept it to 7 points against Georgia. They whacked Syracuse. They beat Florida State. They whacked Boston College.
Bad teams, man.
All
Bad teams.
No, I know that. I'm just saying they were 5-0, 6-0. They had, since the freshman quarterback came in, they had won 6 straight ACC games. Is my only point. Miami today at Pittsburgh this time of year, 38-7. Okay. And I was watching Michigan, Ohio State. I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't paying 90-10. But every time I looked up, Beck looked in control. And we've seen that defense give some others some fits. And the run game was not great for Miami and has not been great this season. Although I do want to say this. Mark Fletcher, since Damian Martinez left, it's been a different feel this year. And Fletcher's had some nice games. And they had the other backup. Was it Brown?
Pringle? No, Brown.
I think it was Brown early in the season. That was the two-headed, if I'm right. But recently, this Gerard Pringle has come on. He's a freshman, right?
Yep.
He's a freshman out of Tampa, Florida, and he's got a lot of talent. But I don't know that they trusted him. But they've recognized that they've got an issue. They've got an issue at the running back game. And so the running back position. And he has been pretty darn good recently. He finished with, 10 for 82 today. Okay. Mark Fletcher had 10 for 30. You see the difference?
Yeah.
So keep an eye on this Gerard Pringle guy if they wind up in the college football playoff, because he could be, I'm not saying he's the Bo Jackson for Ohio State, but he could be a boost to this run game that Miami desperately needs. More importantly, Malachi Toney, this is after kind of going witness protection, being nicked up, not being himself for the middle of the season for a few weeks. Toney, this is the second straight week that he's been awesome. He had 13 for 126 and a touchdown today. Most dynamic freshman in all of college football. And
did he throw one too? I think he threw
a
touchdown.
Yeah, he threw a touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
Right. He was 1 for 2 passing.
Too.
Fletcher was 0 for 1 passing. But Beck was 23 of 29, completed 80% of his throws, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick.
Yeah, the pick was fluky. It looked like he tried to pull it back and kind of came out of his hand. And one he'd probably like back, but not one I'm overly concerned about, to be honest.
But Beck looked really good.
Yeah.
For a stretch early in this season. And then Beck went through what you in your crystal ball, you said. my data
His
trends
ruts.
analysis, he goes through these interception ruts. Be careful. And you called it. All of a sudden it was 2 picks, 3 picks, 4, whatever it was. But then he settled back down. And I want to give this coaching staff credit. I want to give Beck credit. I want to give Malachi Toney credit. The whole program, they took on a lot of water in the middle of the year. And they were kind of an embarrassment and a joke and like all the talent in the world. And they look like the NFL, but they can't ever win. And November and December is where it all falls apart for Cristobal. Well, maybe this team's different.
Yeah.
Problem I have, Steve, before we transition to last night's game against Texas A&M. If Miami doesn't get in the ACC, if they get in the ACC championship game, I'm convinced they're winning it, and there's one ACC team in.
Yeah.
If they don't, they're sitting on the doorstep. They were 12 last week. Now you got a convincing win. What happens if you get an Oklahoma loss against LSU? What happens if you get a BYU's going to lose next week, right? We all believe. Right. What happens if Alabama loses? So now it could be an ACC team from the championship game versus Miami as an at-large. I mean, plus Miami as an at-large if they don't get in the ACC championship. So now you get 2 ACC teams.
Same thing as last year, right? You ended up with SMU and Clemson. Now you're going to end up with a Miami and Virginia, SMU.
potentially could rob an SEC team that we believe should be in, but we'll see when it all plays out. Anything else on that? Or are you good? Oh, I thought Ruben Bain, from what I saw, had a good game, but I didn't see a ton of it.
It is a master class in how to make a push for a playoff spot at the end. They went on the road late in the year, destroyed a ranked team that I think is flawed. I think Pittsburgh's flawed, but I obviously like some of the things. I mean, I've talked about what I like about Pittsburgh too. I mean, that's a good run defense. They got that quarterback. Henschel has an exciting future. There's some things I like about that Pitt team, but it is deeply flawed. But regardless of that, they went on the road. They beat a ranked team by a lot. And the energy that I thought Cristobal and the staff and the team had throughout that game, Beck was jumping around, looking like he's having fun. It was a masterclass of this team is peaking at the right time and trying to market itself for a late nod. And look, it's going to be interesting how it all shakes out, because we'll probably talk about this a little bit later. We're going to get into conversations about that head-to-head win over Notre Dame and Texas losing to Georgia the way it did, and some of these other things that I think are going to come up that will ultimately decide whether or not Miami could get in if they don't get in the ACC championship. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I do think if I'm a committee member, I am really hoping that there are some outcomes that make my life a little bit easier in the next, few hours here.
How about it is interesting if it were to somehow come down to it, and it doesn't look like it will, but it potentially could. Notre Dame with a very similar resume wind up getting in, and Miami having beaten them head to head and with a very similar result. Someone just mentioned that on here. I want to give credit.
Yeah, no, that's the conversations that you're gonna have to have.
I think, yeah. Hog wild fishing. I like hog wild fishing, man. But yeah, multiple people are bringing this up. Miami, Notre Dame, and now it's like we have multiple data points now. With Notre Dame with 2 losses, Miami with 2 losses, both 9 wins, and so both going to have 10 wins if Notre Dame beats Stanford tonight, as we all presume. Head to head, and now we have another one where it's like, okay, late in the season, Notre Dame beat them 30, what did I just say, 35-15?
Yep.
And Miami made sure to, yeah, you beat them big, but we beat them bigger. Both at Pitt. I don't know. It's fascinating. So why is Notre Dame sitting there at 9 and Miami sitting there at 12?
Because Notre Dame lost to A&M and to a really good Miami team. Miami lost to SMU and Louisville. And that to me. And you could say it doesn't matter when you lose. I understand. I think it does matter when you lose, when you have you have to look. It's not an easy thing to do right here, right? CJ Carr is a freshman first year starter. Notre Dame is a better team than they were at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure that Miami has turned into a better team. I think they've been an inconsistent team who is talented enough to compete in the playoff and make a run. And I think Saban said this morning that they would be one of the most dangerous teams if they got in. And I wouldn't argue with that. But the reality is that I think where you look at where Notre Dame is now and where Miami is now, I give Notre Dame the nod. And I know that Miami beat them earlier in the year, but that was the first game of the year, and it was close.
And we just put in the poll in the chat. Does Miami deserve a college football playoff berth without winning the ACC? And it's 42% yes, 56 or 44 now, yes, 56% no. But then so does doesn't Notre Dame get in for those 56%? But I hear what you're saying. And when just like if your quarterback gets injured at the end of the season, or if your coach isn't going to be there and that could affect you, it has to matter who's playing well when. And Miami has played really well the last few weeks, but didn't in the middle of the season, where Notre Dame's struggles came early. Alabama's loss came in week 1, until the most recent. So like that part is interesting,
Yeah.
But Alabama was flying up because it was week 1. It was Florida State. It was a terrible loss, but it was week 1. They new starting quarterback, different team.
Yeah.
So that same thinking applies. All right, let's bring it back, because we'll get to the TMS top 12 and we might have to revisit it tonight because there's a lot going on. But I want to get to what an awesome game last night. Texas A&M, number 3 team in the country and undefeated, goes to 16 Texas in a rivalry that how in the bleeping world did we ever let them not play on a Friday after Thanksgiving? You know? And it's so good that it's back. Go ahead, you start this. Texas A&M, Texas. What are your thoughts?
The two things that really jumped out to me outside of Arch, which we'll get into in a second, are the way that Texas ran the ball in this game. Quinn Wisner had 19 for 155. If they can run the ball like that, they're in good shape. And the other thing is that when Michael Taff is in the lineup for Texas, their pass defense is different. Throughout all the numbers, the people have been able to throw the ball against them this year. When Michael Taff is in that lineup, it's different. He is the quarterback of that defense. You saw it. Those were 2 picks that reminded me. The 2 fourth quarter picks of Marcel Reed were, vintage Texas from last year, which made that team so good. Zone looks, tracking the ball, attacking the ball, feasting on a quarterback making a bad decision and I think poor throws. There wasn't a lot of velocity on those throws, and taking advantage. So those are the 2 things that really jumped out to me. That Texas defense is for real with Michael Taff in there. I think he makes a tremendous difference, and they run the ball like that, and they are going to be tough to beat.
It was a very different team second half from first half for Texas.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. That's great coaching. That's players that are capable of adjusting. That's maybe getting some of the nerves out, whatever it is. Let me give you what I got. Arch's legs kept him alive in this game early on.
agree.
I thought as the pressure was ramped up, and I do want to give a lot of credit to Trevor Gooseby, and I haven't watched every bit of tape on it, but some of the plays that I've seen, pushing around Cassius Howell 11.5 sacks a season, didn't really sniff Arch last night. But as the pressure was ramped up in terms of blitzers, 5-6 man rushes coming after him, and the offensive line inconsistent, I would say, not very good at times.
Yeah, that's fair.
It started to get to him. And I here are the 2 things that I saw from Arch last night that I didn't like. One, I think there's still, as a first-year quarterback, there are times when I look at him and I'm like, yo, deer in headlights. If the pressure's coming fast, we got to adjust quicker. There's this like quarter count that happens sometimes with him where it's like, you there? Yo, you there? And that only comes with game experience and recognizing it and knowing the clock's got to speed up in those situations. When 5 or 6 are coming, or you get an overload of 5-on-4, as we saw in that one sack. You got to know it, and you've got to react differently than if you've got a 4-man rush and 5 in to protect. It's just a different animal that you're going up against. And I thought there were several times I saw it, and I kept saying like almost like a deer in headlights, like that pause, and then like move from there. Okay.
Yep.
The other part that is interesting, because I didn't notice it last year, and at times it's really good. But for some reason, throwing on the run has become challenging for him. Like he skipped that one ball that, like, what are you doing in the back of the end zone? He almost overthrew Wingo
That was close, man. I mean, that was a highlight for the game, but I mean, that was a wide open Wingo, man. That didn't need to be that interesting.
And so those are the 2 things where I think he has to continue to improve. Okay. But I put this on X last night and on Threads, and like I felt like this was a culmination type game for Arch and what he's been doing. Because in the last 6 games, they had the loss to Georgia that wasn't nearly as ugly as it looked, the final score. They had won 5 other games, all against SEC opponents. He threw 2 interceptions. One went right through his receiver's hands. The other one was on him. He has not fumbled the ball the entire season. He had thrown 14 touchdowns to the 2 interceptions, only one of which were his fault, and they beat 5 SEC teams. And you can say, well, they weren't the best, but he beat a couple top 10 ranked teams. Now, I think they have 3 at the time. they've beaten 3 teams that were ranked in the top 10. Okay.
Right.
And we can get to resume in a little bit, but what I want to say is, and while you look at it, it's like he didn't even complete 50% last night. No, he didn't. But when he completed those throws, and after bouncing back from a first half, and the run, like the 35-yard touchdown run, and a couple of other runs, I thought he just stepped up and finally, like, he finally took over. He's been taking over games and playing really well despite the supporting cast being up and down. I felt like he took over that game to a certain degree with great defense and a run game in the second half. That's the other part. To me, it was kind of 3 things. The defense was dominant and opportunistic for Texas. Second game, there was no run. Second thing, there was no run game early in this game for Texas.
Yeah.
And it was scary. And you could see the pressure mounting. And I was like, oh no. Because I called it before the game. If both teams, the other 21 starters play equally, I said, essentially, I give a big edge to Arch in this game.
At quarterback, you had Arch over Reed, is what you were saying. You give the edge to Texas at quarterback over Texas A&M.
And so if all 21 starters, the other 21 starters outside of quarterback play equally in this game, I'm giving the big edge to Texas because of quarterback, because of Arch over Marcel Reed. And you know me on Reed. I've been an open book. I love the dude. I love the athlete. I love the clutch plays in the moments. And I think there's just like a special magic in him that's different from a lot of other cats that you watch. His quickness, that first step, I told you, he might have one of the fastest, like, first 3 steps of any quarterback I've watched. Like Vic stuff. Now he's probably a 4.5 guy. He's not a 4.3 guy like Vic or like Lamar, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I've said if A&M gets got, it's going to be because Marcel Reed is just not where he needs to be as a pocket passer. And we saw in the first half against South Carolina, it almost happened. And a large part of that was on Marcel Reed in the first half of that game. In this game, it was the second half against Texas, the 2 interceptions, and just not being able to make throws because the footwork, the mechanics, he's just gotten away with a lot of slop because he's such a great athlete. And they're going to have to live or die in the college football playoff with it. And he's back next year, and hopefully he'll continue to work on those sorts of things. But it was like everything that we talked about for months, from the preseason to the evolving Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. Both were awesome, mostly in the second and third quarters of this game, but they were awesome. The run after catch, the big punt return from Concepcion, making big plays, all those things. But if they're going to fall apart, it's going to be the quarterback. It's going to be turnovers. It's going to be those mistakes. And it might be some tackling problems on the other side. And then the second half we saw, as I mentioned, defense was vicious and opportunistic. The run game was non-existent in the first half. And then all of a sudden, Wisner had that 48-yard run. First offensive play of the second half. It's like the whole game changed. It turned.
Agree.
That 48-yard run, almost you could feel like a sigh of relief on the Texas sideline and in Arch's helmet specifically. Like, we can get some run game, we can balance this thing out. And then they start going, and the run game keeps clicking. Quintavious Wisner finishes with 19 for 155. Wonder what the FanDuel bet would have been on that if you could bet the rush yards.
Yeah.
After that first half, that he'd finished with over 150 rush yards. My goodness. Arch had 7 for 53, including that 35-yard touchdown rush. UT rushed for 23, Mensch, for 220 yards. That's almost 10 a pop, and 2 touchdowns on the game. And that was the difference. It was those 2 things. And then keeping Howell silent was another kind of side factor. But those 2 things were the difference. It was that defense finally playing defense with Taff, as you talked about, and that run game finally getting going.
And the flip side, I've never felt better about an evaluation, and your evaluation of Reed as a player is dead on. I agree with you. I've never felt better about the evaluation of a team as I do about Texas A&M. We knew that game could happen. We were waiting for that game to happen. And by the way,
almost did against South Carolina.
Yeah, and they still were competitive in this game, by the way. This is Texas A&M. I don't think they're good enough to win four in a row.
against that
And
quality of competition.
no, and I don't think they'll
But
get the
the
bye
weird
now
part is they're also capable of beating
of beating
any team
anyone.
in the dance,
They can beat
including
anyone. Yes.
if they put it together, like if things go wild and all of a sudden you can't corral Reed and the pass rush gets going, they get a little bit of a lead. Like they could beat Ohio State. I would be curious what the neutral site line with A&M. We asked for a few of different ones, but I don't think it was.
Yeah.
It was A&M. I think my guess is it would be a lesser spread, Ohio State favored over A&M than most other teams. Not all,
Yeah.
but most other teams, even after that loss. But
It's interesting to me. Maybe we'll get into this game in a second here, but Georgia is a team that I could see winning four in a row, and I could see doing that. But I don't. It's almost that they're not as dangerous. And the other thing is, I respect Georgia so much. I am popping the popcorn and getting ready for any Texas A&M game at this point. It is must watch TV because it's so volatile, it's so exciting, they're so explosive, and their defense is kind of the same as it is on offense. Like that defense can be great at times, and then at other times they just like a shell of what they are at their best. So, man, I love watching that team. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of noise they can make in the playoff. But it's like we've said for probably the last month, maybe the last 2 months. Really good, could beat anyone in the country. I don't know if they can win 3 or 4 in a row.
yeah, so that's where we are. And next up, we got to finish these 3:30 games. Oregon's up 10-0 on Washington currently. 21-14 is Tennessee over Vandy. 3-3. Someone on the chat, I forget who it was. I want to give them credit for they're allergic to offense. Both Oklahoma and LSU. And this is the thing with Oklahoma that's frustrating.
Ooh, always trade back, man. Texas A&M is NASCAR. You're watching for the crash.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
ATB, we have a lot of respect that you're still popping in on the chat. We know what games he at?
He said he's scouting Big Citrus, Dominique Orange, the defensive tackle for Iowa State. Yeah,
Iowa State, getting ready for the Senior Bowl. We'll see you down there in Mobile, ATB. All right, let's finish it up as we always do. And again, we may have to cut this portion out or we'll just let it live and we'll do an add-on tonight. And I would love to talk to Muench in a bathroom tonight if I could.
I hope it happens. I'm like rooting for it.
You better have your phone on.
I'm bringing the portable charger, whatever the kids call it, so I can make sure that I don't lose battery.
And you know me, I'm all for the fun. Like I don't care if you're 9 drinks in. You're a big man. You can hold your water. It doesn't matter.
Here we go.
It's TMS after dark. All right. Speaking of TMS, the TMS top 12. So Ohio State's sitting at number 1. I don't know if we have the graphic from last week's TMS top 12, which is not from the college football playoff, but here it is. Keep this up, Tucker. It makes it easier. Ohio State obviously just cements that number 1 spot heading into the championship games. Indiana, the win in Purdue doesn't do anything. A&M out at 3. Okay. Georgia beats Georgia Tech. It didn't matter to me if it was by a half a point. That's a tough game. That's hard to get up for if you're Georgia with all the schedule they've had, the SEC championship maybe looming, at that point. They get the win over Georgia Tech. Texas Tech routs West Virginia. Ole Miss, second half, pulls away from Mississippi State. I mean, to me, it's Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Georgia 3, Texas Tech 4, Ole Miss 5. Any disagreement?
I still have Oregon ahead of Ole Miss, but we're flip-flopping too.
And I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
And I said that to you the other day.
Yeah, I thought we did that, but
No. You and then I watched the tape on Oregon. Remember, I went back and watched the tape on Oregon. Okay. And I said I actually wouldn't have a problem anymore because I do think they're more advanced on offense. No, not more advanced. I do think, but then again, they don't have the wide receivers. I don't know. It will be Oregon ahead of them if Kiffin's not there, I promise. And Dan, if
O-
you see anything on Kiffin before we jump off, let me know. Um,
Oregon's defense is significantly better than Ole Miss's defense.
let's
It
do it.
just
Let's go.
is.
Let's go. Oregon 6, Ole Miss 7. So no, sorry.
Okay.
So let me re-rack this. Dan always gets confused. He texts me after every show. He's like, "Yo, you had like 14 teams in the top 12, and I don't even know what the order was."
We reserve
S-
that right, Dan. We reserve
do.
the right to have 14 and 12.
I'm going to mark it down. Ohio State 1, and chime in here if you're on the chat. Chime in if you're screaming. Yeah, live show at the Senior Bowl. Yo, Mr. Brian. You're right. Get with ATB. Get with Godin. Get with the crew. They'll tell you what's going on. They're gonna start orchestrating, and we're gonna give some facilities for the operation, if you will. All right, Ohio State 1, Indiana 2. A&M drops. We got to figure out how far A&M drops. Georgia 3, Texas Tech 4, Oregon 5, Ole Miss 6, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm going A&M 7. Okay.
Yep. I like that. Yep. Excuse me.
Marissa's laying into him downstairs. I can't wait to see what I'm walking into after the show. Maybe we'll stay on another half hour. Maybe we'll just stay on until it calms down up there.
Can we go mobile? Do we have a GoPro that you can just walk in there? We can get it.
I don't think you want to. It's that Italian blood, man, when it gets boiling up. All right. So A&M is 7. Now we got 8 is Oklahoma. They're playing in a tough game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Oklahoma. Oklahoma
beats LSU.
They leapfrog Notre Dame.
But the way they're playing so far, I'm not ready to get them to leapfrog anyone. But I think I think we agree on this. Oklahoma and Notre Dame are the next two. And if Alabama wins at Auburn against that defense tonight, I'm putting them at 8.
Okay.
But I can't right now. So let's leave it alone. Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Alabama. TBD
is your nest bucket. Yep.
That's a bucket. I'm gonna put a bracket around it because that's 7. So 8 through 10 is those 3. TBD the results. Oregon's taking care of business. 3-3 Oklahoma, LSU. I knew that was gonna be tight. And then Alabama. But I'll bump Alabama up if they look good tonight against that Auburn defense. Then the world has BYU and Miami 11-12. We put Texas in last week, and we didn't look so stupid, did we, Mensch?
No, we did not.
So I'm going Miami 11. I was impressed with that win. And Texas 12. No. Yeah,
Flip 'em.
Texas. You want Texas 11?
Yeah.
But how are you having Notre Dame at 8 and Miami at 11? Yeah, they just beat the number 3 team in the country. They had 3 losses. The only one that's bad is Florida. Yeah, You're right. All right, I'm with you, Mensch. I'm going to ride with you. 11 is Texas. Miami is 12.
I like it. This is a top 12, by the way. This is not in, who's out. We'll do that at some point. This is the TMS top 12.
And the tricky part is with Texas at 11 and Miami at 12. If Miami gets in, they wouldn't in our situation, but if Miami gets in as an at-large, okay, and the ACC has a different representative from the ACC championship game that Miami wasn't able to play in, if that's how it shakes out today, then there is no Texas.
Can I also tell you something else that I want to amend?
What?
I got Oregon ahead of Texas Tech, and I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't have Oregon ahead of Texas Tech. I love the Texas Tech story. That's cool. They lost to Arizona State. You know who Oregon lost to? The number 2 team in the country. That's their only loss. I don't know how we're doing this. I get it. I understand. And by the way, I feel like the receiver thing is a little overblown, but like you're not alone there. There are a lot of people concerned about that Oregon receiving room, about the injuries there and what that's going to look like going forward. But I don't know how you don't have Oregon ahead of Texas Tech. It's a great story, and that's a good Texas Tech team. I mean, Oregon lost to Indiana. Texas Tech lost to Arizona State.
I'm not changing it right now, but I am going to put a little box around TTU, Oregon, and I'm going to initial it SM. Question mark with the double arrow. Okay, that's noted.
Fly Ducks fly. Let's go. I'm still in on the Ducks.
It's noted. If you can see it in there. There we go. See it?
There you go. Yeah.
Yep, it's in focus now. Double arrow SM. All right. This has been fun.
It's been good.
I hope I see you in a bathroom stall tonight.
It'll probably be outside of a bar, but yeah, it's something along those lines. The lighting's going to be terrible. I cannot. I'll try to get away from people that may want to get involved in the broadcast, but like, we'll see what happens.
Pro draft scouting. I'm not Italian, but my lady is. And I used to mess with my mom and say, I think something happened between you and the Italian milkman, because I love Italian people. I love Italian culture. I adore Italian food. I love their passion. And so I'm an Irishman, and we, for some of our strengths, just horrible taste in food. But I have a great deal of respect for the paisans, the Italianos.
I hear you, JP McKenzie. I know that Texas Tech lost to Arizona State with my guy Hammond. I get that. There's no way they should lose that Arizona State team.
Yeah,
Sorry.
blame it on Muench. Blame it on Muench. But
also, can I say something? I wanted to say something really quick, kind of serious.
Okay.
The first time in the history of us doing this, we had an asshole in the chat today and saying some shitty things. And the way that the rest of the people who are on this chat all the time responded was freaking awesome. I love the way they responded and weren't having it. And it was one of the prouder moments I've had in terms of our community and our group. It was good to see.
I love it, Muench. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was not good.
Sounds like it's better off that I didn't. Ignorance is bliss. And I mean, if I wasn't going to give it to you before, I'm definitely giving you 5 stars now, Muench. And hopefully I see you tonight. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.